Hi, I'm Mimi Chan. Welcome to Culture Chat. Thanks for joining the conversation. Hi, everyone. It's the Mimi and Greg Show on Culture Chat. In this episode, Greg Rucka explains why the GOP is a cult. Seriously, a cult. We both try to remain hopeful after Biden and Harris winning the election, but it has been difficult. I'd like to tell you that in this episode, we chat about comics, unicorns, or rainbows. However, I can't lie to you guys. Greg keeps it real as he tackles the lack of truth in journalism and the disgrace of the GOP. We also have a fascinating conversation on the military and the role they will play in the transition of power. Our intense chats are a result of the gravity of the times we are in. COVID-19 is at an all-time high, democracy is fragile, and I am tired. We are all tired. However, we have to be vigilant, strong, and remember, we are all in this together. For those that don't already know, Greg Rucka is a New York Times best-selling author of hundreds of comics and nearly 24 novels. He's also the writer for the hit film The Old Guard, starring Charlize Theron. I'm loving these conversations and hope you are too. If you are, please rate my podcast on your platform of choice and share it with others. If you would like to support with a donation to help keep this podcast going, you can become a patron of the show by visiting my website or patreon.com/sifumimichan. For comments or suggestions, email me at mimi@culturechatpodcast.com or reach out on social media at sifumimichan. Now on with the show. Hello, Greg.
Hello, Mimi. How are you today?
It's another questionable week.
Well, I mean, yes and no. We were about to talk about this, and then we were like, "Hey, maybe we should start recording." But a friend and colleague of mine, a writer named Gareth Zasharka, who is he does research for me, and he's a role-playing game designer and just a really smart guy. He wrote a piece for Medium, the website, and I can send you the link if you want to put it at some point. Definitely. But he wrote a piece for Medium that went up yesterday. Let me see if I can find where he put it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and and it's called A Republic, if you can keep it. And it's really a lovely, well-written piece, okay. That talks about all the authoritarians need to do is get it right once. Mm-hmm. And we need to get it right every time. I am grossly disappointed in the GOP.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Even though it's like not surprising, it's still so disappointing that they've taken this avenue. You're like, really? This is what you're going to
do? And it says something that the rhetoric, for instance, that Lindsey Graham is throwing around is, life or death struggle rhetoric. Mm-hmm. He's talking about, we have to do this or else the Republican Party is dead. It'll never be in power again. And it never follows the next logical question, right? Which is, okay, if you have to lie and cheat and steal, and that is what you had to do, mm-hmm. right? You had to lie and cheat and steal. You had to disenfranchise up to 40 million voters, mm-hmm. To keep them from voting because you were so afraid that they would vote you out of power.
Right.
The next logical question is, why do you think it is that you would lose in a fair fight? Right. So the twisted logic that says, because it's not all Mitch McConnell twirling his mustache and masturbating into a jar going power. And I do think but I do think that is all it's about for McConnell. I don't think he has any interest in governance. I don't think he has any ideological core. I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
Like I can believe that for all of his hypocrisy, there are, Lindsey Graham or others like him genuinely have convinced themselves that they know what is right for the country.
Mm-hmm.
And they and they are its last line of defense,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe for a second Mitch McConnell thinks that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he thinks that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about power. And I was thinking this morning as I was having coffee and trying not to doom scroll, that the GOP is a cult. It's not a political party, it's a cult. And all you have to do is look at their behavior. All you have to do is look at what's his name from Oklahoma, who this morning was saying, well, I will make sure Biden has the intelligence briefings, and has already walked it back. Mm-hmm. He's already walked it back. And that means that for a moment, his conscience said, oh, right, we're supposed to serve the country. And then Mitch came over and kicked him repeatedly in the nuts, saying, no, you don't. You do not. You're not here to help govern. You're here to make Republicans be able to rule. And that's the whole thing right there, mm-hmm. right? Is that there is no, and we've talked about this before, there's no desire to govern. Mm-hmm. If there was a desire to govern, then there would be a desire to engage and to compromise. Right. And to find the middle ground. They don't want that. That has been against party policy for over 30 years now.
Yeah. Right? I've been quoting you on that.
certainly since the first Bush left office.
Yeah.
And the Clinton administration came in, the policy was no, they don't get to do anything. Only we get to decide. And now put that next to, like I say, I mean, the arrogance and the contempt that is evidenced by the GOP is staggering, because the logical extension of that belief, even in the best of all possible worlds, is that the majority of Americans are stupid, should not be allowed to vote because they should not be allowed. It's literally, the GOP thinks that over half the country, meaning that those people who do not agree with them, are 8-year-olds who should under no account be given car keys. That's how they treat us.
Yeah.
All right. And that's in the best light. That's in the best possible light. And we don't have that light. We don't have the best light. We have a staggering light of truth right now that is an administration that has been voted out, a party that is now wrangling everything it can behind the scenes to ensure they will maintain power, because they know Trump's gone. Right? Mm-hmm. So the vast majority of all that's going on right now, in my opinion, is about Georgia. It's not about Trump. Mm-hmm. That said, I think there are a lot of really scared people in high positions of power in the GOP and behind those people who are very worried about what happens once Trump re-enters the private sector and is brought up on the hundreds of criminal charges that he cannot be protected from. Mm-hmm. That he cannot be, because Pence can pardon him for federal crimes, but
there's lots of other things to address there.
And there's a little thing that happens in preparation for a trial called discovery. Mm-hmm. And And there are a lot of scared people there. and
yeah, those folders are coming out. The ones that you always mention, the folders are coming out, and because it's like, oh, you're gonna screw me, then I'm gonna screw you, and it's just like now it's all the shit's coming out. But I know you and I aren't surprised by this in a sense, but it's just every hour that went by, and I said, wow. None of the GOP are congratulating, but not one of them are really standing on their own 2 feet. I said, oh, this is going to be bad. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And then I don't know if you saw, I can't even remember which House rep or senator, whoever was like, I want to succeed from the
yes,
union.
yeah,
this guy
from Missouri. We're gonna succeed. It's like, okay, well, number one,
isn't treason to be
number one, it's secede,
right?
And number two, go.
Right, yeah.
No, seriously, go. Let's see how Missouri does on its own.
Yeah. I think what I want you to like actually do like the grammar like correction thing and then like
and send it back.
But I want you to send it back with like the grammar thing like a
little note saying good luck, Godspeed. There was a joke, I will not say who it was attributed to, but post the election stuff and some discussions amongst people I know about how, this is 3 countries. And maybe what we need to do is just split it up. And what would you call the different regions?
Mm-hmm.
And the region in the Bible stand region, as I refer to it, somebody said would be called the Panhandle, because that's what they'll be doing. And there is some truth in that.
Yeah.
There was a political cartoon, I can't remember who did it, but it was a limbo joke, and it was McConnell and Trump getting, and literally it was like, how low can they go?
Yeah.
and that's the thing, is that I woke up, oh, hey, and this is the clock, right? The clock on this. We finally get the election results.
Mm-hmm.
You get maybe 24 hours of going, oh, thank God.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Unclenching. And then immediately it starts again.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is. It's like, it's remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a lot of time, I think I've mentioned this before. I've talked about this with Mark Evans is the producer on the Old Guard movies. And he and I have been spending a lot of time on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling him that, Jennifer and I, we're old. And one of the things we do at night when we are not so exhausted, after, we get into bed and before we fall asleep, is we'll put on like old episodes of Antiques Roadshow, because it's just so innocuous. It's our lullaby.
Yes.
And there was one that, they trotted out prior to the election being like, hey, election memorabilia edition. And we were watching it. But the thing that I remembered, and it's easy to forget, is that in my lifetime, the Reagan-Mondale election, that blowout happened, right? That I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the outlier. That's not what this country normally has ever done. You go back and you look at the vast majority of American presidential elections, and they have all been squeakers.
Mm.
Kennedy beat Nixon by 500,000 votes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Adams and Jefferson, and if you've seen Hamilton,
yes,
right?
I have.
Yeah, Jefferson and Burr. So this is not in and of itself unique. What is unique is the polarization in the country at this time, where the political parties, and I'm not even, I'm speculating. I could be wrong. I am not a governmental historian, and I'm sure you've got a listener out there who is a PhD in American politics and who can talk about like 1874 to 1908 specifically or whatnot. But my feeling is that the polarization here, and again the idea that this isn't about governing a republic, it's about ruling a nation, is so acute and sickening.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I will say that I like I said, I'll send you the link to Gareth's piece, and in fact, I think I'm going to do that now so I don't forget.
Don't worry, I would remind you.
It is
because I have it here in my show notes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really worthwhile piece, and I think. And one of the things that he points out is like he's lost the election. It's done.
Yeah.
You know, people are worried about, you know, coup, and that's not what it's going to be. It's what happens next. And the thing is, we're all so tired.
Yeah, we're so tired. But you're absolutely right with the polarization. I mean, these are the conversations I've had over the past few days, and with the people that, like you said, know more about political science and things like that. And it's definitely accelerated over the last 20 years. And it's less about political party and like hating the opposition and driving that hate and that wedge. And it's interesting to me, though, that you're right. They basically are treating us like we're 8 years old and we're not going to know any better or figure it out. And it makes me a little upset, though, that a lot of the Americans that are portrayed or given airtime or given, that platform show that side of us that I don't really feel reflects all of us, and that shows like, oh yeah, we are going to listen and we're going to count the votes for this senator, but we absolutely don't want to.
And
because it doesn't go our way. I'm like,
how can they be so blind to their own hypocrisy, right?
If they are literally frustrates me.
If they're literally saying, well, there's these ballots this is fraudulent. Yeah. Okay, Mitch. Yeah. If that's true, then you didn't win re-election.
Right. That's why I don't see how they can't see that.
Yeah, you can't have it both ways. Right?
But that's the point. They've been so used to having it their way, like babies in the last 4 years, spoiled children, and now they're getting called out and they don't like it.
Well, and it's always the Himmler playbook. Accuse them of what you are doing. Accuse the opposition of the thing you are doing. I mean, that has been Trumpism from the start, right? And that's exactly no. You guys stole votes. We don't steal votes. Yes, you do. You fucking do. We all know you do. Your whole existence is predicated on stealing votes. 40 million Americans, roughly, right? Eligible voters apparently didn't vote in this election.
Yeah.
40 million. How many of that 40 million didn't vote because they were prevented from it?
Exactly.
How many Texans
couldn't drive to their poll?
Exactly. Couldn't drive 3 hours
because it was so far away. Yeah.
Exactly.
Absurd.
I've got to take, that's a 12-hour day. You've got to take a day off from work. Yeah. You got to drive 3 hours. You got to figure out how long you got to be in that polling place, and you got to drive home, which means you didn't work that day. So the Texas Republican government literally stole the vote from their citizen. I mean, that's all it is. That's it is grotesque and absurd. And now we all have to look at Georgia because we need Georgia.
Oh man.
We're gonna have to fight every fucking inch for Georgia.
Yeah, it's just kind of like thank goodness for Stacey Abrams kind of thing and the work that's happening there. And you're right. Everybody has to kind of turn their eye there and support this. And it is a big deal. Like the presidential election is a big deal, but this is the line in the sand, everybody. This is actually being able to govern now and being able to do something
and
to improve this situation.
One wonders how badly the GOP is hurting itself. But again, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
if I was a voter, and say I am willing to entertain that there are GOP voters who held their nose and bit their tongue and voted for Trump anyway. And now I'm looking at the result of this election and the way my party is behaving in the face of it, and clearly behaving in a way that is, I mean, this is a child's temper tantrum.
Yeah, it's the whole dragging a kid out of Chuck E. Cheese that you've been hearing everybody say. It's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, well, it's that, and it's them literally covering their ears and going, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. I mean, at a certain point, one wonders if it's just not embarrassing. And if you don't sort of look and be like, God, I don't want to be associated with you people anymore. Now,
we hope that happens, but Oscar and I are much more leery because I know you said you wanted to entertain the thought, but it's like, yes, maybe people who even don't like 45 is like, oh, we don't like 45, but we want all of our conservative values. So the Senate should stay conservative. So that's our big concern.
Or I'm scared what happens if the Democrats get, like I said, I will entertain it, but this is now me trying to have it both ways. Yes. They're either a cult or they're not. And I would argue they're a goddamn cult.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's sickening. I mean, it is just sickening. And I mean, look, we're gonna be suffering through this for a real long time, and suffering through it, even after inauguration, and we'd be suffering through it even if we had the Senate, because, and you've seen these pictures, right? Of guy with great big, Trump mobile parked in front of his house on November 2nd. And on, November 8th, it's just a truck. Mm-hmm. All the flags and everything are down. And it's like, yeah, they're not going away. They're just hiding. Mm-hmm. I could get out there and be a racist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic piece of shit. Well, it was while everybody else was doing. This is why they're cowards. Right, is that I'm willing to do these things that I know are wrong if there's the strength of a mob around me. And the second the mob is broken, there is no conviction there. And as I've said multiple times, they're bullies. Yeah, and all bullies are fundamentally cowards.
Yeah, cowardly behavior. And we see that kind of resounding across the board, because I don't social media in that way also, but my friends are like, yeah, all my friends that are normally like boisterous and on election day, the 3rd, 4th, everybody was like maintaining radio silence. And so it's like, you knew the tone out there was, oh, okay, we may not have that backing now.
Yeah, we got caught.
Have our blanket, our little, where we're not covered in our cloak of invisibility or whatever they thought they had. But yeah, it was like, we got caught, but we know who you are. And that's why I said that one of the only positives of that, it's like, oh, well, I kind of like to know who's out there and know who they are, and that they're not in hiding anymore. And they've already made themselves known to us.
And they're gonna try to hide. But the thing is, we're not going to forget.
Yeah.
it will not be forgotten. And in particular, it's not going to be forgotten by those voters who really swung this election, by the Black and Latinx and Asian and Muslim and youth communities that mobilized for this. Mm-hmm. They're not going to forget.
Yeah. I have to say the only positive about 45 being such a train wreck is he also is his own worst enemy, in the fact that there was a little poetic justice over the whole Arizona John McCain country thing, where basically he did that one to himself. Like, basically you can't attack him and then expect those supporters to then respect you. Like, he really thinks he's just such a god that he can say and do anything. And this is finally proven that there are lines that some people are willing to cross. So I thought there was a little bit of hope there that some people were finally offended at something.
I'll take a little bit of hope.
That was like, okay.
I mean, look, so we're gonna have a bumpy ride for a ways to go. But honestly, and we've seen this too, and I think this is worth remembering. It was always going to be a bumpy ride. You know, one of the things that 2016 taught us is that it's difficult work to engage all the time. And that isn't to say we all should engage all the time, but it is to say all of us need to be more engaged. And so in those moments where where I step back, I know that you are paying attention.
We'll tag
you know what? Yeah, but that's exactly it.
You're right.
And that we did let our guard down. And part of it is on us. And a vast part of it is on these plutocratic bad actors who, I mean, there's an argument to be made that the GOP has been working towards this since the late 60s.
Yeah.
That's over 50 years of following an ideological course that manifested in very literal and calculated steps. But I will always believe that the attack on education in this country, which has always been led by the Republicans, number one, it's, again, you don't want to govern. Then if you're doing that, you want to rule, because you want an ignorant populace, because they're easier to control, they're easier to scare, they're easier to rile up, they're easier to lead. And to have a healthy democracy, you cannot have a healthy democracy in a society that thrives on ignorance.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the news lately? Because they actually stopped, airing things in the middle of people's speeches, when they were starting to talk about
wonderful
stuff, and they're finally,
I think
a
it's
little hopeful.
I think it's great that they finally found their balls 5 years too late.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. A little too late, but
I mean,
better late than never.
No, because I don't believe them.
Right. This is what I wanted to ask you, because
I don't believe them. They and in particular, all you got to do is look at Fox News. There is a gross hypocrisy at work, and I don't think you don't thank somebody for starting to do the job that they should have been doing all along.
Exactly.
I am not going to thank the fireman who stands outside of my house going, well, that's a nice fire. And only after the house is burnt down turns on the hose and says, well, we better fight this. It's like, no, your fucking job was to hit it with the hose. Mm-hmm. So you don't get my thanks for doing your job after the fact. This is what you should have been doing all along.
Yeah. And I have a strong belief in my brain that they're part of the reason that 405 got elected, because he got all that free media.
No,
he got all of that. And so I blame them. I blame them. I said, can we do I've been asking for a 24-hour no speaking his name, no airing anything about him since 2015. I was like, it's never going to happen. I guess we're just going to have to hear this until the day he's in a hole again. And I was like, that would drive him crazy. He might implode if that happened. If he wasn't in the news cycle for 24 hours. If they could have all just banded together.
The greatest thing in the world would have been to, make him irrelevant and insignificant.
Exactly. Ignore the narcissist. You have to treat, the issue. But
yeah,
they couldn't do it. And then they gave him power. And it was, he was so great for the media because he said stupid things. And they're like, wow, everybody likes to watch this.
Yeah. And there were people who apparently voted for him, not because they agreed with him, but because they thought it was funny how angry people got about
Yes.
him.
I had someone actually say that to me. I just wanted to piss everyone off. I was like, well, mission accomplished. And I didn't even know what to say at that point because it was like right after the election. So I don't think the significance of it had settled in, but I understood the significance and I was pissed.
And this is one of those moments where I'm very grateful that I do not have your skill set. If somebody had said that to me, I probably would have punched them straight in the throat.
I had to take all of my breathing control, my meditation practice. It was not easy. I will not lie. It was pretty infuriating.
Think about how horrible. I mean, God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what kind of person are you that thinks, oh, this will be a great joke? I mean, was he white? I'm assuming he was a white guy. Right, because the joke's not going to be on me. I'm fine. Yes, I'm protected. Yeah.
I'll never listen to this podcast, but also, at heart, a good person.
So let me say, fuck you, buddy.
Oh, yes.
I hope the colorectal cancer
definitely
really
white privilege happening there. There's so many conversations at so many levels. We had to convince these people. Well, yeah, you do know racial profiling actually happens. And he didn't believe that till Oscar had actually shared personal stories, which is why I also thought, oh, this is a great idea. Have real people on and build empathy. People who know me maybe will hear things and maybe make better decisions or at least open their minds.
We hope.
It amazes me though that there's so much ignorance, right? It's so shocking that we all are in the same existence, hearing similar things and completely interpret them opposite.
Right.
I'm still fascinated by this.
but again, that's the process, right? That was the goal. I make him ignorant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am going to tell you that the only truth you need is the truth that's going to come from Fox News. Seriously. And if that is your only source, guess what? You believe things about the world that are fundamentally not factual.
Yes.
Just not true. It's just not true, guys.
True. Yeah.
Just not true.
Zero truth. It's actually false propaganda. And they don't believe that, right?
Yeah.
I told you about that.
It says it was on the news.
It was on the news, right? That's not the news. That's the problem. No, but I think and also it's kind of like drugs, right? So if a person could just say, look, I'm not going to watch Fox for a week, they may actually get a cleansing and realize, oh, wow. But they'll also realize that they'll be craving it and that they will be fiending for it. And they'll have these kind of reactions. And even when I took my parents fishing on a little fishing trip where we got an Airbnb. It was like a private dock, so I could isolate them. Obviously Oscar and I went in after their cleaning to do a cleaning. It was like, and I said, oh, here's the rules, by the way, for these 3 days. CNN and nothing. There's no news allowed in this house. And they looked at me like I was bananas. And I said, oh, I'm serious, because you don't actually know how to turn the TV on. And I'm not going to tell you. I didn't allow news for 3 days. And you know what? After the first day, they got over it because they were enjoying fishing and relaxing and cooking and just like relaxed, right? And it was wonderful. But of course, I get back and I can't control what they do at home. But
right. Well, no, and yeah, but
the detox is an important thing.
It is.
And if people who watch Fox were able to do it, they may even realize, wow, they're trying to scare me all the time. Why are they trying to scare? It's addictive.
It's also interesting. And again, I'm sure people far smarter than I have done studies on this, I'm sure. But I am a little fascinated to find out what how we emotionally and how the brain processes the news when you are not seeing / hearing it, but rather having to read it. Like when you read a website or a paper, right? As opposed to hearing Wolf Blitzer or, Ari Shapiro or whoever.
Any news anchor, really.
Yeah. If the consumption is, if how we consume it changes how we engage it emotionally.
I don't know the science either, and I am dying to look that up because I can tell you as a test subject, that is why I do what I do. I do not watch the news, especially weather. Like if there's a storm coming to Florida, you don't turn the news on because they're like, and it's going to be epic. Yeah, basically they want you to just like throw your hands up in there and run around. I mean, they do it on purpose, and sometimes I'll do it because I want comedy. Because I watch it going, wow, you win the award for most exaggerated, and it's like, 20-mile-an-hour winds and one tree fell. I mean, come on. It's absolutely
guys, breathe.
Yeah, so I know I can't hear 45's voice. I know I can't hear the same line that's written across the thing spoken to me. It affects me differently. Like just as the one test subject, I can tell you that my anxiety is through the roof, which is why I do not listen to the news and why during election week, I didn't even listen to like a podcast about the news. I was like, I will take very small things to stay informed, like very bite-sized, but mostly I just had my friends text me because I was like, you know what? I don't want to know. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to engage because my anxiety is so high right now. I need to focus on my mental health. And that comes first because I've already voted. I'm not going to change the outcome. There's nothing I can do at this point. So I'd love to see the science on that as well, but you're absolutely right. I'm sure whatever serotonin uptake inhibitors are happening or whatever it is, Oscar could probably tell us more. He did neuro drugs for a while. Like he sold those. I'm sure something's happening in the brain and they do it on purpose.
Yeah.
The colors they use and the tone and it
is all very targeted and
totally.
Look, I mean, for the last 4 years or so in this house, we have not had, Jen has to warn me if she's going to put on the TV for news. I used to listen to the radio every morning because as all the problems I have with NPR, I at least felt like I was getting something accurate. And around the time of the election, I realized that they are just a bunch of fucking cowards too, and they weren't doing their job. And then after, the shit given got into office, and we talked about this, and I would be at the gym, right? I'd be doing cardio, and the gym I used to go to, was one of those ones that were like 6 TVs. And I live in Portland, and it's fairly liberal here, right? This is not one of them is on Fox. That was it. But it would be like, here's MSNBC, here's CNN, And then here's one other news,
like a local,
and then you'd get sports or whatnot. And every goddamn time that man appeared, I would just, and I can see I'm tracking my pulse rate.
Yes.
It just
it's like beep 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 beep.
And it was an early self-care transition. Was, no, if I'm going to be informed, I'm going to have to read it. I'm going to have to read the New York Times, which is I'm still disgusted by, and the Washington Post and the Guardian.
Yeah.
And even now, I'm not willing to go back to them because I don't trust them. I'm not. It goes back to what you were saying. I'm really glad they cut away from the press conference.
Yeah. But it almost even feels like a stunt in itself.
Yeah. It's literally too little, too late.
I agree. It's funny though that people really don't understand the power of propaganda. I was like, if there could just be some light shed on the way a lot of these authoritarian countries operate and the type of news their citizens get. And I just have like a small window, even because my father has the satellite for Chinese TV because it's in Chinese and that's what he understands. And he'll tell me what their news is saying. I'm like, interesting, really? Because it's like, it's completely different. And then when I was in Europe traveling, like everyone's news is very different, right? But especially the ones that are censored and everything. And it's interesting to me though that people just don't actually believe like, oh, well, it's on TV, it's real, or it's the new. I mean, especially in this day and age of all the reality TV we have, all these crazy things. Reality TV is not even reality, it's still theatrical.
It absolutely can't be.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And I don't know, this is like a complete tangent, but I just thought of it as you and I were talking earlier about the news and how if you're just tuned into one station and you only have one view, and how just self-centered it makes you. Because Oscar and I were at this beautiful museum in, I think it was Norway, and we had gotten off on a little tour, and we went and we're sitting there looking at these polar bear pictures, and it was, the polar bears, they were like dying, and it showed like the population, what was happening. This is very Arctic centric like area. And we're looking, and this lady next to me really loud, like, well, that's all fake, right? Those aren't real polar bears, and that's not real. And I turned and I was like, and then Oscar just grabbed me and dragged me out of the museum because it was like an older woman. But I was like, here we go. This is why people hate Americans right here. Because this lady is yelling her rhetoric of Fox News saying that there's no climate change and the polar bears aren't dying. And we're in Norway. You think this museum is catering to your like this is about you, of course.
Yeah.
I was like so angry, but yeah, literally Oscar just like grabbed me and dragged me because he was like, don't engage with this old woman. It's just gonna be a bad thing. We're on vacation. But I was so mad.
We're from Canada is kind of what you want to say,
Yes.
That's not us.
And I'm like, and then it's just it is what it is, but it's very frustrating.
No, it's madness inducing is what it is.
Yes. And it takes me a while to calm down from stuff like that. And I just get so worked up, which is why I'm like, nope, I'm taking a hiatus from the news. I can't do it. And I know, the few exceptions I make are Seth Meyers, because he always has like the right way of combating it, and he's so smart.
He is so smart, and it is different. And humor, it's like it's the same reason why I adore John Oliver as well.
Yes, like, John Oliver also. Yeah.
And I can take that ride, but I don't. It has been, and it was pointed out right after the election, that the nature of one of their tactics was to overwhelm, to throw so much at us so quickly that we could not keep up, and to create fatigue and to create distress. And it was very successful.
Mm-hmm.
And thus, our ability to play mental and emotional defense was crucial and is crucial. And these are lessons we got to carry forward, because you can be engaged, and you are a great example of this, Mimi. You can be engaged while keeping yourself healthy. The goal in overwhelming us is to force us to disengage. It isn't, it is simply to make us sit down and hide our heads in the sand so they can keep committing their crimes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Should we be concerned about what hopefully is that smaller percentage of like the Proud Boys and the ones that are just really deep into I believe 45 is one, and now he sent me on a mission to go out and be violent or do anything crazy? Like,
okay, so here's my unpopular opinion on that.
Okay.
As stated, the vast majority of these people are nothing but bullies, and bullies are cowards.
Mm-hmm.
The true believers in that group, and there was a guy like I saw a piece in the news passing me by. I didn't chase it down, saying that basically the leader of there is a civil war brewing in the Proud Boys because their leader is basically saying, "No, I'm a Nazi." Right? He's come out and said it.
Right.
Right? He said that's what I am. Okay. Let's see you guys pick that fight, because you'll lose badly. And if in taking up arms to fight for Hissy Fitler, you embolden others to take up arms and fight for Hissy Fitler, it just means we know where all of you are.
Mm-hmm.
But if they think that the U.S. military is going to go, right, well, we're with you guys, they're high. And if they think they can beat the U.S. military, they're insane.
And didn't 45 just fire a bunch of people in the military?
Well, and Esper's, and people were overreacting this. Esper's ouster was coming for a while.
Okay.
Since arguably since June. But he's going to have to go really low down that chain before he's going to find somebody who's going to be like, well, yes, sir, Mr. President, I will help you with your coup. You're talking about career military people, and I have a great respect for a lot of these people, even if we're not politically aligned.
Right.
Because for a great number of these people who came out of Annapolis and West Point and so on, that are career, that have devoted their lives to this, they have devoted their lives to a service, and they have seen presidents come and go. Their service is to the nation, not to a person. Their service is, and they swear to protect and uphold the Constitution. So he can be turning over every rock that he can find, and there may be plenty of people in the rank and file who are like, I'm with that guy, I'm with the orange guy.
Yeah.
But there are far more people like the Mattises and the Colin Powells of the world.
Yeah.
Both of whom are well retired, who have still people in the E-ring, who look to them who were mentored by them,
right,
who were taught by them. And these are people who are going to be like, I will not, that is an illegal order and I will not follow it. So look, I think there is an extraordinarily high chance for violence. I will be surprised, in fact, if there isn't. I have great concerns about Portland because we're surrounded by nuts.
yeah. It's weird. You're this great liberal area, yet you have
But they can all commute in from the hinterlands of Washington and Oregon and Idaho and Northern California, and they, and I get it, and we are concerned. All right. And innocent people are going to suffer. But I do not have a doubt in my mind that if they make that move, they die. They will cease to exist. That they will be met with. These are people who think they're soldiers.
Right. But they're untrained.
Well, and maybe they're vets. Maybe
right, that's true. Some of them are trained.
They've got some tactics. I mean, they spend an awful lot of time alone with each other in the woods, fondling their guns and what else. I'm more than willing to admit that. However, yes. They are not, however, SEAL Team 6 or Detachment Delta.
Yeah.
And, if I send a handful of Deltas into Portland to clean things up, it's going to get cleaned up. There is a reason, and this is the thing, and now we're in a totally, this is for people who are like, oh, wait a minute, Greg's going to talk about fiction.
That thing he does, that writing thing.
When I wrote Alpha and Bravo, one of the things that was going on with Alpha and Bravo was me thinking, look, for a long time, Delta Force was denied, right? The government just said, Delta what? We've never heard of it. Who are you? Right? I mean, literally like, la, 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 we can't hear you. Look over there, shiny. And then Delta Force got sort of outed.
And then was it Chuck Norris had a bunch of films or something?
Yeah, exactly. And they became, and the SEAL teams were the same.
Yeah.
For a while, right?
Okay.
We had SEAL Team 1 and SEAL Team 2, but we had SEAL Team 6, mythological. And then all of a sudden people started talking about SEAL Team 6. So every time one of these things comes out into the open, the Navy and the Army and the Marines and the Air Force, there are at least 2 or 3 others that nobody has ever heard of that have innocuous names like, the 782nd Logistics Analysis Division. All right. And those people are the shooters who, these are because there is a realism to this, right? It's not all fiction. This is what these people do. They train for this day in, day out. The ones we've heard about, right? That's not the end of it. Okay, well, that cover's blown. Time to make another one. They've got a fucking template. It's really easy.
Yeah. They know what they're doing.
And that's the thing. So I guarantee you, there's a counterinsurgency team, that is on standby or, for God's sakes, may have already been deployed and is waiting for a go order. All right. Now, they may need executive authority before they move. So they're all sitting there going like, well, this motherfucker's never going to give it. Right. And they know that.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, they may go, okay, well, weapons free. And this is not to say, Greg thinks, that we've got superhero soldiers defending our liberty rolling around downtown Miami. But it is to say that the Proud Boys and their ilk have no idea what they're up against.
Okay. It's funny when you were talking about that, I was thinking Alpha Bravo, and then you said Alpha Bravo, and I was like, oh, I was just thinking that.
Well, I mean, that's the root idea, right? Is that, JAD is part of a unit that is the equivalent of Delta or SEAL. So I can't imagine we get through this without some violence, because
I know. And that was my, it's just nauseating, because one is too many. Like, one collateral damage, one person that shouldn't have had to go is too many. And yet
but
it's
but that'll be an interesting one too, because if that does happen, there's a civil suit to be brought against Trump.
Interesting.
You can draw a direct line.
Yeah.
Say, this person's death is your responsibility, and it's your responsibility not as leader of the government, right? It's not as head of the executive. So God knows,
Yeah. Woo-wee. We had a nice light conversation today.
Oh, come on.
No, we knew. Like, I've actually been looking forward to today's discussion, because it's been such an emotional roller coaster. It's like Saturday, I was like, I'm just going to enjoy it. So many good things happened. And then Sunday, I was just exhausted, and I pretty much I felt like I was narcoleptic. I couldn't stop falling asleep because I was just done. And then Monday, I was down again. And I'm like, there's no, the GOP is they're just going to do this, huh? And then the rest of the week has kind of been going along. So no, I've been really looking forward to talking to you.
They're gonna continue to do it until they can't do it anymore. And our job is to keep holding their feet to the fire and keep shouting and screaming and pointing and arguing. And we can't, the thing is, we got a day off, but it ain't over. Yeah. So, I'm sorry. And I wish to God we all could get the rest we have earned, but it ain't over yet. Yeah. And maybe it'll never be over, but it ain't over right now. And we got to get in there, and we got to throw the punch. So
yeah. Well, we're here for the fight, so it's good. And I'm grateful you're here with me.
I am grateful to be here with you.
Very good. Very good.
And I'm grateful for everybody else who is, in this battle and doing the best they can. And it is hard. It is not easy. I am with them. We have been, it has been such a long damn road.
But we are in this together. Yeah. Those of us that are in it together.
We will survive.
We shall. So, well, we will leave it there. And then hopefully next week will be some new interesting things to talk about. But I'm afraid these guys are going to keep giving us this crazy stuff to go over. But,
they're always going to have something for us to talk about.
Oh, yeah. I have no concerns on content. Like I said, now for my show notes, I was like, Greg Prep, it's just kind of like one word. Today was just GOP. And I'm like, I don't even need to say it.
Yeah.
He's bringing it up.
It's like putting the key in the back and and then shoving, and I sort of toy soldier until I bump into a thing. So.
Oh, no. I look forward to these discussions, and it's great because now I get them out in a couple days, so it's much more timely. So that's good. We're on a new schedule now. So today's Thursday. This will probably air in like a day or two. So good. Work. Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, sir. And I will see you soon.
Great talking to you. Give my best to everybody. Okay.
Likewise.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to Culture Chat, and hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please subscribe and rate my podcast. Feel free to leave me suggestions or send an email to mimi@culturechatpodcast.com, or follow me on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.